What's up, everybody? This is kind of the second half of a video about Boogie Woogie patterns and how to play Boogie Woogie. I will again say I'm not a Boogie Woogie expert, but I do enjoy it. I do practice it a little bit. So the first part I showed you 4 Boogie Woogie patterns that I'm obsessed with right now. As always, I encourage you to buy my books, Jazz Piano Fundamentals, and there is a little bit of Boogie Woogie in playing solo jazz piano. But I wanted to make a special video about hand coordination and how you might improvise against Boogie Woogie, even though that left hand is so active. So I'm going to show you a few of the things that I suggest and a few of the things that I've been working on lately. And I'm going to use this Pine Tops Boogie Woogie pattern as my example. So just to review. Sounds like this. And we'll just go through a C blues form. Sorry, there's a little rattle in the piano. I don't think it's in the video. I think it's just actually in the piano. So let's see, a few first steps. First, you might want to just see if you can play the same thing in your right hand while you're playing your left hand. Then, can you play quarter notes without stopping in your right hand while you're playing the Boogie Woogie pattern in your left? You know, as a beginning point, you could even play a scale. You could play the C blues scale. Harder than I thought it would be. Let's do it one more time. Now, this is often tricky for people. Can you play offbeat quarter notes in the right hand while you play the Boogie Woogie pattern in the left? Before I do that, let me just say that definitely as the first few times that I did this, I wrote things out first and then I practiced it as though it was a classical piece. It makes it so much easier for me, at least, to be able to see how and where things line up. So don't be afraid of writing things out if this seems really difficult for you to do spontaneously. So offbeat. See, that was hard even for me, and I've been doing this a while. Now, one of the things that you might not think to do, but is always suggested, is to put that Boogie Woogie pattern into your right hand and do those same exercises with your left. This just helps to bring those two sides of the brain together and form something that's a little bit more cohesive. Easier for me because it kind of feels like walking a bass. And then to try to do the offbeats. could try at this point, and this is my idea of fun, which is like sick teacher fun, is you could try to play the clave in either hand. Usually I do the 2-3 clave, right? If you're not familiar with the clave, let me write it out for you here. It's easier than telling it. Clave is a rhythm that's important, particularly to music from Latin America, but a lot of diverse music. And the traditional 2-3 clave, as I understand it, I'll just make another announcement that I'm not an expert in this music, but it's ba 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 da da da. Like a that's pretty fun, and then kind of fun. Okay, and then at that point, maybe we want to start thinking about some eighth notes. And however you want to get this started is great. Scale up and down. If you can do this the whole way, that really helps. I messed up the pattern. I went instead of. A part of the skill of this is being able to mess up the pattern and keep going rather than to have to stop or to miss a couple of beats. And then start the scale from some different places. Start exploring. Yourself a little bit more leash to maybe do some quarter notes, maybe put in some rest, maybe put in some triplets. That starts getting to be, what you would want to do with your Boogie Woogie improvisation. Now, one special element that I would suggest practicing is hemiolas, right? If you're not familiar with that word, hemiolas, I will write it down right under our clave here. Hemiolas are groupings of notes that don't fit evenly into the overall grouping. And so I use a hemiola of 3/8 notes. It was just very common in a blues style. And this is one of the harder things coordination-wise. So definitely have written this out before I'm doing it right now. Right now, I can do it for you. Right? Or even a hemiola like. Right, it's 3/8 notes, so it doesn't fit evenly into that measure of 4/4. So you might want to start there, and then you could start moving these around a little bit. So that kind of becomes a thing to really practice and play around with. And of course, you could come up with your own hemiolas. That's not one. I can't do that one yet. This is a Oscar Peterson. So I would need to practice that one before I can actually implement it. And then one last thing I would definitely practice would be repeating the same phrase. If you watched my last video, you know that one common device used to organize Boogie Woogie is to have repetitions every measure. So it'd be great to practice. Whatever you play, transpose it. Whatever the phrase is, then replicate it every measure and make sure that you can move it both rhythmically and tonally into these different key centers. All right, I think that's it for my Boogie Woogie tutorial. Let me just do a little bit of Boogie Woogie improvisation for you before we call it a day, because it's fun. My apologies to any real Boogie Woogie pianists out there. Just a reminder, check out these two books, Jazz Piano Fundamentals and Playing Solo Jazz Piano. I believe deeply in them, and I hope that you like them. Have a good one. I'll see you here soon.